I'll never forget the morning it all started. I had just stepped out of my little townhouse, coffee mug in hand, ready to head to work. The sun was barely peeking over the horizon, painting the street a soft golden glow. But instead of peace, my chest tightened with irritation. There it was again. That shiny red Porsche, polished so much it blinded your eyes when the sun hit it, sitting proudly in my parking spot. I froze, staring at it. My name, reserved for John number 14, was painted right on the asphalt, yet this kid thought he owned the world. Not again. I muttered, setting my coffee on the hood of my truck and rubbing my temples. It wasn't the first time, not by a long shot. Every single morning, Karen's son, I'll call him Tyler, slid his Porsche right into my space, as if it were his birthright. And every single morning, I felt my blood boil a little hotter. The worst part? Tyler didn't even live here. His mother, Karen, was the HOA president, and she lived 2 houses down. Tyler was just freeloading, lounging around, and using my parking spot like it was his personal trophy shelf. That morning, though, something inside me shifted. I decided this wasn't going to be just another day of quietly fuming. I marched over to Karen's porch and banged on her door. It swung open, and there she was, blonde hair teased high, silk robe draped around her shoulders. Coffee cup in one hand, HOA clipboard in the other. Her expression? Pure annoyance. "John, what now?" she asked like she was already tired of me. "Karen," I said firmly, "your son is parked in my spot again. This has to stop. I pay for that space, and I need it." She glanced over my shoulder, saw the Porsche, and actually smiled. "Oh, come on, John. It's just a parking spot. Tyler's young. He needs space close to the house. You can park a little farther down, can't you?" My jaw clenched. "No, Karen, that's my spot." "I've been patient, but this isn't fair." She rolled her eyes. "Fair? Life isn't fair, John. Don't be so dramatic. Besides, Tyler's car is worth more than your old truck. You should be honored. It's sitting there." That stung, but it also lit a fire in me. "Karen, I'm warning you, if this keeps up, I'll have no choice but to escalate it. I'll get the HOA involved." She cut me off with a laugh so sharp it echoed down the street. "John, I am the HOA, remember? If you want to file a complaint, you'll have to file it through me. Good luck with that." And with that, she shut the door in my face. I stood there for a moment, fists clenched, my heart hammering in my chest. This wasn't just about a parking spot anymore. This was about respect. About being treated like a human being, not some pushover neighbor who would bend to their entitlement. That evening, I tried a different approach. I caught Tyler himself as he strutted out of the house, car keys twirling around his finger like a toy. He couldn't have been more than 22. All slicked back hair, expensive sneakers, and a cocky smirk that made you want to smack it off his face. "Hey." Tyler, I called, blocking his path to the Porsche. He stopped, gave me a once-over and smirked. "What's up, old man?" I swallowed the urge to lose it and kept my tone steady. "That's my spot you've been parking in. It's reserved for me. I need you to stop," he laughed, tossing his keys in the air. "Relax, dude. It's just a spot. I'll only be there for a couple hours in the morning. Besides," he tapped the hood of his Porsche lovingly, "you don't want me leaving this baby too far away, do you? What if someone scratches it?" I took a deep breath. "Tyler, I don't care about your car. I care about my space. Respect your neighbors and move it." He smirked wider, leaned in close, and whispered, "What are you going to do if I don't?" That was it. The moment I realized he was daring me, testing me, seeing how much I'd tolerate before snapping. The next few days were torture. Every morning, without fail, I found his Porsche lounging in my spot. Some mornings, Tyler would sit on the hood, scrolling his phone, waiting for me to notice. One morning, I came out to find a sticky note on my truck windshield. It read, "Too slow, old man. Find another spot." I crumpled it in my fist, my vision blurring with rage. I called the police, but they told me it was a civil matter, something to take up with the HOA and the HOA. That was Karen. I felt trapped, completely cornered, but then something unexpected happened. One Friday morning, As I was leaving for work, I saw one of my elderly neighbors, Mrs. Peterson, struggling with her groceries. I rushed to help her, and as we passed by the Porsche, she sighed. "That boy has no respect," she muttered. "Always blocking people, always revving that loud car at night. His mother lets him do whatever he wants. But John, don't let them walk all over you. People like that, they only understand consequences." Her words stuck with me like glue. That night, lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling. The anger, the humiliation, the helplessness, it all boiled inside me until a dangerous thought crept in. Maybe, just maybe, it was time to give Tyler a consequence he'd never forget. The next morning, as I looked out my window and saw that Porsche gleaming in my spot again, I smiled for the first time in weeks. "All right, kid," I whispered. "You want a game? You got one?" And that was the day everything changed. I woke up the next morning with a strange kind of energy. Not anger, not frustration, but resolve. For weeks, I'd been playing defense, letting Karen and her son walk all over me. But Mrs. Peterson's words replayed in my head like a drumbeat. People like that only understand consequences. She was right. When I stepped outside, sure enough, the Porsche was sitting in my spot again, its paint sparkling in the early sunlight. Tyler had even angled it so it looked like a showroom display. But instead of boiling with rage, I smiled. I walked slowly past the car, running my hand along the warm metal of my truck. Then, I bent down and carefully set a bright orange traffic cone in the middle of the spot next to mine, the empty one that belonged to a neighbor who was out of town. It wasn't much, but it was the beginning of a plan. Later that day, I spotted Tyler leaning against the Porsche, chatting on his phone. His designer sunglasses reflected the world like he was untouchable. I walked right up to him. "Morning, Tyler." He looked me up and down, clearly annoyed I had interrupted his call. "What do you want now, old man?" "I just want to warn you," I said calmly. "You keep parking here, and you're not going to like what happens next." He smirked, sliding his sunglasses down to glare at me. "Is that a threat?" "It's a promise," I said. His laugh echoed down the street. Please, you can't touch me. My mom runs this neighborhood. You mess with me, you mess with her." And then he leaned close and whispered, "And trust me, John, you don't want to mess with her." He tapped the hood of the Porsche and strutted away like he owned the street. That night I sat at my kitchen table, hands wrapped around a cooling cup of coffee, planning my next move. I wasn't a violent man. I wasn't out to ruin anyone's life. But I was sick and tired of being ignored, belittled, treated like garbage on my own property. And Tyler? He needed a lesson in humility the following week. Things escalated. On Monday morning, I found another note on my windshield. "Nice try with the cone." Didn't work. "Get used to walking." On Tuesday, he took things further. I came outside to find mud smeared across the side of my truck. Big, deliberate handprints. My chest tightened as I stared at the mess, fury coursing through me. I stormed over to Karen's door again and pounded hard enough to rattle the frame. She answered, looking just as annoyed as before. "What now, John?" "Some of us are busy." "Your son vandalized my truck," I snapped, pointing toward the mess. "This has gone too far, Karen. Too far." She glanced lazily at the mud, then back at me. "Oh, don't be ridiculous. Boys will be boys. I'm sure it was just a prank." "A prank?" My voice cracked with anger. "That's destruction of property." Are you seriously okay with this? Her lips curved into a smug smile. If you don't like it, John, maybe you should consider moving. This community is evolving. Not everyone can keep up. And with that, she closed the door again. That night, I sat in my truck for almost an hour, staring at the Porsche gleaming under the streetlight. The arrogance of that boy. The cruelty of his mother, it all pressed down on me until I felt like I was suffocating. I thought about calling the police again. But I knew how that would go. Civil matter, HOA issue, dead end. So instead, I reached into the glove box and pulled out my old notepad. On the top page, I wrote in bold letters. The very next morning, the whole neighborhood heard it. Vroom. Tyler revved the Porsche's engine so loudly, it shook the windows. It was 6 a.m. Birds scattered from the trees. Mrs. Peterson peeked through her blinds, shaking her head. I stormed outside in my robe, glaring at him. Do you mind? Some of us are trying to sleep. He smirked, tapping the gas again. What's the matter, John? Too loud for you? Maybe if you parked somewhere else, you wouldn't hear it so much. Neighbors stepped out onto their porches, watching. Tyler loved the attention. He revved the engine again, laughing. That was when Mrs. Peterson called out from across the street. Shame on you, young man. No respect for anyone. Tyler turned and gave her a mock bow. Respect is earned, lady. I clenched my fists, every nerve in my body screaming. This wasn't just about me anymore. Tyler was humiliating all of us, mocking the whole neighborhood. That was the breaking point. The next evening, I waited. I watched from my living room window as Tyler pulled into my spot again, music blasting from his car. He strolled into his mother's house without a care in the world, leaving that Porsche sitting there like a challenge. I whispered to myself, all right, kid. You asked for this? I pulled on my work gloves and stepped outside under the cover of darkness. The street was quiet, only the soft chirping of crickets breaking the silence. I walked slowly toward the Porsche, my heart pounding in my ears. I crouched down, running my fingers along the smooth metal of the bumper. And that's when I smiled, because I finally knew exactly how to turn this boy's arrogance into a pile of scrap metal. The night I made my decision, sleep didn't come easy. I tossed and turned, staring at the ceiling, hearing the ghostly rumble of that Porsche's engine echoing in my mind. My fists clenched at every memory of Tyler's smug grin, every note he'd left, every dismissive laugh from Karen. By 2 a.m., I sat up, heart hammering. Enough talking. Enough begging. It's time. I slipped out of bed, dressed quietly, and pulled on my old work boots and gloves. My garage smelled of motor oil and rust, the same scent that had followed me since my younger days as a mechanic. My eyes landed on a heavy steel chain coiled in the corner. Then I saw the thick tow strap I'd used back when my truck still hauled trailers. The plan clicked together in my head like gears in a machine. At exactly 3 a.m., the street was silent. The Porsche sat smugly in my spot, its glossy body glowing faintly under the lamplight. To anyone else, it was just a car. To me, it was a symbol of arrogance, of disrespect, everything I'd swallowed for too long. I backed my truck slowly, easing up to the Porsche's rear bumper. My headlights were off, the night covering me like a blanket. My hands shook, but my jaw was set. I hooked the steel chain to my truck's hitch, then looped the other end under the Porsche's axle. My breath came in shallow bursts as I double-checked the knot. "Here we go," I whispered. I climbed into my truck, started the engine, and gave the gas a gentle push. At first, the Porsche resisted, like a stubborn mule. The chain tightened with a metallic groan. Then the Porsche lurched backward a few inches. My chest tightened. Metal screamed against asphalt as the Porsche scraped forward, dragged like a helpless child. I pressed harder, my truck straining, the chain rattling. The Porsche groaning in protest, and then it happened. The Porsche's rear bumper snapped off, clattering onto the pavement. I heard the sickening crunch of fiberglass and steel grinding into the road. Sparks flew briefly under the chassis by the time I stopped. The car's undercarriage looked like someone had fed it through a grinder. I stepped out, my legs shaking. The once pristine Porsche now sagged pitifully, its guts hanging low, bumper gone, paint scarred, a shadow of its former glory. I stood there, chest heaving, staring at the wreck, and then I did something I hadn't done in months. I laughed. The next morning, the neighborhood woke to chaos. Karen's shriek could be heard 3 blocks away. "My baby. My poor baby," she wailed, clutching her silk robe as she ran barefoot into the street. Tyler stumbled out behind her, hair a mess, face pale as he saw his prized possession mangled like roadkill. "What the? Who did this?" he roared, dropping to his knees beside the wreck. This car was worth more than half the houses on this block. Neighbors gathered, whispering, shaking their heads. Mrs. Peterson stood on her porch, arms folded, her eyes meeting mine briefly. She didn't smile, but she nodded just once. Karen turned on the crowd, her eyes wild. "Which one of you monsters did this? Who touched my son's car? I'll have you arrested. I'll have you all thrown out of this community." Her gaze finally landed on me. "You," she hissed, pointing with a trembling finger. "It was you, wasn't it? You've hated my Tyler from the beginning. Admit it, John. You destroyed his Porsche." I stayed calm, hands in my pockets. "Karen, I don't know what you're talking about." I was asleep all night. It's lies, of course. But the calmness in my voice made her falter. Tyler jumped up, fists clenched, face red with rage. "You think this is funny, old man? You think you can get away with this?" I met his glare, steady and unblinking. "You've been parking in my spot every day, Tyler. Maybe this was the universe's way of teaching you respect." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Karen stormed forward until she was inches from my face. "You'll pay for this, John. I'll drag you through court. I'll strip you of your HOA rights, I'll just then." Red and blue lights flashed across the street. The sheriff's car pulled up. Deputy Harris, a stout man with a calm demeanor, stepped out, surveying the scene. "What's going on here?" Karen rushed at him like a woman possessed. "Officer, this man destroyed my son's car. Arrest him immediately." Harris held up a hand. "Slow down, ma'am. One thing at a time. What happened to the vehicle?" Tyler jumped in, voice cracking with fury. "He chained my Porsche to his truck and dragged it. Look at it, it's ruined." The deputy turned to me. "John, is that true?" I looked him square in the eye. "Deputy, that boy has been illegally parking in my spot for weeks. I've called before, but it was written off as an HOA matter. I don't know who did this to his car, but I do know this. He was trespassing on my property every single day." Ow. Murmurs rippled again. A few neighbors even nodded in agreement. Harris rubbed his chin. "That true? He's been in your space without permission?" "Yes," I said firmly. "And I have photos. Weeks worth of them, time-stamped." I pulled out my phone and scrolled through, showing him picture after picture of the Porsche sitting in my marked spot. Karen's face went pale. Tyler's mouth hung open. Harris sighed. "Well, as far as I can see, this is a civil dispute. The vehicle was illegally parked. If damage happened while it was trespassing, there's not much we can do. Best you take it up in civil court." Karen screeched like a kettle. "What, are you saying he gets away with this?" The deputy gave her a sharp look. "Ma'am, your son shouldn't have been parked there in the first place. Actions have consequences." For the first time, Tyler's cocky grin was gone. His hands shook as he stared at the wreck of his car. "You ruined my life," he muttered, voice cracking. "That car was everything to me." Something in me softened. Just a little. I saw not a smug boy, but a scared kid, realizing he wasn't untouchable after all. Still, I stood my ground. "Respect your neighbors, Tyler. That's worth more than any car." The sheriff eventually left, and the crowd dispersed. Karen dragged Tyler back inside, promising lawsuits, vengeance, the works. But the Porsche. It sat there for days, broken, dented, abandoned in my spot like a trophy. Every time I walked past it, I felt the weight of what I'd done. Satisfaction. For a few days, peace settled over the neighborhood. The Porsche sat in my spot like a wounded animal, its once pristine frame now twisted and scarred. Tyler refused to move it, maybe out of shame, maybe out of denial. Each morning, drank my coffee on the porch, watching the sunlight glint off the broken metal. It was petty, I'll admit, but it felt like justice, a daily reminder that arrogance comes with a price. But I should have known Karen wasn't finished. On the 5th day, I opened my mailbox and found an envelope stamped with the HOA seal. Inside was a thick letter full of fines. $500 for damaging community property, $300 for disturbing the peace, $200 for improper parking cone placement. At the bottom, in Karen's bold handwriting, was a note. "Consider this the beginning. John, you'll regret ever crossing me." My blood boiled. Not because of the fines, I knew they were bogus, but because of the sheer audacity. She was abusing her power, using the HOA as her personal weapon. That evening, I walked over to Mrs. Peterson's house. She welcomed me in, poured me a cup of tea, listened patiently as I vented. When I finished, she leaned forward, her voice steady. "John, people like Karen hide behind titles and threats, but the truth is, they're fragile. You shine a light on their lies, and they crumble. You've already shown Tyler what consequences look like. Now it's time to show Karen." Her words gave me courage. The next morning, I drove down to the county records office. It took me hours, but I dug through HOA bylaws, property maps, and meeting minutes. And there it was, clear as day. Karen had been illegally raising HOA fees for years, pocketing the difference. Worse, she had been signing off fines without proper board votes. I made copies of everything that evening. I gathered the neighbors in my garage. Mrs. Peterson, the Johnsons, the Ramirez family, all the folks Karen had bullied over the years. One by one, they shared their stories. Karen had fined the Johnsons $200 for having a flower pot too close to the sidewalk. She'd threatened the Ramirez kids for riding bikes too. Loudly, she'd even tried to ban Mrs. Peterson from hanging her wind chimes. By the time everyone finished, anger burned hot in the room. I stood up, holding the files. We've all had enough. Tomorrow, we confront her. Together. The next day, Karen strutted out of her house, clipboard in hand, Tyler sulking behind her. She stopped cold when she saw the entire neighborhood standing on my lawn. "What's this?" she snapped. "Some kind of mob?" "No, Karen," I said firmly. "This is accountability." I handed her the stack of papers. "We know what you've been doing. The false fines, the illegal fee hikes, the abuse of power. It ends today." Her face drained of color. She flipped through the documents, her hands trembling. This is nonsense. Lies. You can't prove anything." Mrs. Peterson's voice rang out, strong and clear. "We all know the truth, Karen, and if you don't step down as HOA president, we'll take this straight to the county. You'll lose everything." Karen's mouth opened, but no words came out. For the first time, she looked small, powerless. Tyler stepped forward, his voice shaky. "Mom, maybe we should just stop. It's not worth it." She spun on him, eyes blazing. "Don't you dare take his side." But Tyler didn't flinch. He just stared at the ruined Porsche, then back at me. His shoulders slumped. "He's right, Mom. Actions have consequences. I learned that the hard way." Silence fell over the street. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Karen's clipboard slipped from her hands, clattering to the ground. She turned without a word and stormed back into her house. The neighbors cheered, clapping me on the back, thanking me for standing up. For the first time in years, the street felt united, free from her shadow. That night, I sat on my porch again, watching the stars twinkle above. My truck sat in its rightful spot. The Porsche finally towed away. I thought about Tyler, about the look in his eyes when he admitted his mistake. Maybe, just maybe, the kid would grow up a little from this. I thought about Karen too, how power had twisted her, how her pride had blinded her. I didn't hate her, not really. Mostly I just felt sorry for her. Mrs. Peterson shuffled over with a plate of cookies. She sat beside me, her voice gentle. "You did good, John. You reminded us all that bullies don't win forever. Sometimes they just need someone brave enough to say, 'Enough.'" I smiled, taking a cookie. Funny thing is, I didn't feel brave. I just felt tired. Tired of being pushed around. She patted my hand. That's the thing about courage. It doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's just refusing to be silent one more day. As the night settled, I felt a weight lift off my chest. The fight was over. The spot was mine.